Well, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're reading the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, and we're up to verse 35. This particular pericope is in Matthew's Gospel, much shorter version of it there, and it's an interesting actually exercise to go and read this one and compare it with what's in Luke. Luke has a much more extended version, and the grammar is slightly more complicated and the vocabulary much more precise than what we see in Matthew. So it obviously comes from a common source, but Luke has expanded on it somewhat. Estosan hemon hoi ospues peri zosmenai kai hoi luknoi kai ominoi. Now we get this is an imperative, third person plural imperative from the verb to be. The osphus is the singular here. This is osphues plural. It's your loins. So, and we have here it's really a periphrastic pluperfect imperative, if I can use that expression. So it's let your loins be girded, from perizonumi, and this is the perfect participle here. If you're looking it up, it's perizonumi, to put your belt on, so hence girded. So let your loins be girded, and your lamps, kaiomenoi, present participle, burning, a light. Kai humas homoioi, anthropois, pros dekomenois, ton kurion hiauton, poti analuse ekton gamon. Hina elthontos kai crusantos eutheos anoixos in auto. And you have to understand this be like, some verb to be here. So you be like to men who are prosdekomenoi, dative plural, who are expecting their master, the master of themselves, reflexive. Pote, when analuse, it's a funny use here of the verb. Analuo, here it's got the sense of that he might return. It's only here with this particular meaning. Its usual meaning is to break up. An ekton gamon, from the marriage, presumably the marriage feast. So whenever he returns, puts an end to perhaps after the marriage feast, so he returns from the marriage feast, hina, in order that, so be like the men, in order that, elthontes kai crusantos. Now we get two genitives here, and we've got to understand autou here as a genitive absolute. So in order that when he comes and when he has knocked, aorist participle from cruo, to knock, immediately they might open, understand the door, auto, for him. This is the aorist subjunctive from anoigo. So be like to those sort of men that when the master, when he comes and knocks on having knocked on the door, immediately they open the door, understood, for him. Makarioi hoi douloi kanoi, blessed are those servants whom elthon hokurios hurese gregoruntas. Amen lego humin hoti peridzosatai kai anakline autus kai parelthon diakonese autois. So blessed are those servants, those whom the master having come will find gregoruntes. This is from gregorio, to keep awake. So blessed are those whom when the master comes he finds keeping awake. He finds awake. Truly I say to you that peridzosatai, he will gird himself. This is from perizonumi. Again, it's that same verb we had up here. So he will gird himself kai anakline autus, and he will cause them to recline. Now this is a future here, you can tell by the accent. So he will cause them to recline, kai parelthon, and having come, diakonese, he will serve, it takes a dative, he will serve them. Kan, for kai ean, kan ente deutera, kan ente trite fulake elthe, kai hure hutos, makarioi estin ekanoi. So we get some subjunctives here. So kan for kai ean, even if in the second and if in the third watch he might come. So even if he might come in the second or the third watch, literally guard. But the night was divided into 3 parts, as I recall, or 4 parts, and so they're saying even if he comes in the second or third part of the night, in the second or third watch, and he might find them thus, he might find them in this state, they are blessed. So blessed are those ones. Tutot de ginoskete hoti aide ho oikodes potes, poia hora hokleptes urkatai. Uk an efeken diarukhthenai ton oikon autu. This is an imperative here, but know this, that if the oikot despotes, the master of the house, if he knew, this is the past tense from oida, at what sort of hour, this is that poios, at what sort of, so at what sort of hour the thief comes, he would not allow, from aphiemi, with that other meaning of allow, it has a lot of range of meanings, one of which is allow to let, so he would not allow his house, diarukhthenai, to be broken into. This is from, looking this one up, this is di orusso with a double sigma. This is the aorist passive infinitive here. It literally means to be dug through, because many houses were made of mud brick, and one way of breaking in was literally to dig through the wall. And so this diarusso, literally to dig through, just simply comes to mean to break into. It's quite a common usage of this verb. So he would not have allowed his house to be broken into. Kai humas gines the hetoimoi. Hoti hey hora u dokete hopios tu anthropu urkatai. So, and another imperative, you lot, you plural, be hetoimoi, ready. Because hey hora, on the hour in which, it's that usual trick of putting the relative pronoun before the antecedent. So you would not know on the hour in which, so in the hour in which you do not know, so the Son of Man comes. So putting it the other way around, because the Son of Man comes at the hour in which you do not expect, I should say, from docio. You do docio is to seem right, can have the sense of expect. Apen de hopetros, Curie pros hemas ten parabolen tauten leges e kai pros pantas. And Peter said, Master, or Courier, Lord, do you speak this parable to us or to everyone? Prospantes. Kai epen hokurios, and the Lord said, Tis ara esti hopistos oikonomos hophronimos, hon katastes se hokurios epites therapeas autu to didonai in Cairo to cytometrion. And the Lord said, who then is the faithful oikonomos? This is one who looks after the house. The nomos, the verb nemo, is to distribute, and it can mean to arrange or distribute, to organise. This is the organiser of the house, often translated the steward. So who then is the faithful steward? Hophronimos, the wise one, connected with phrein, with your mind, the wise one, whom, Hokurios, the Lord will establish, from kathistemi, it literally will cause to stand over, so whom the Lord will establish, epi, tes therapeus, out to. Therapeus, a funny word. It means a therapone is a servant. Therapeia is service. Therapua, of course, comes to mean to heal, and so this has a range of meanings, but here it's management. So over his household, the management of his household. And then didonai, 2 plus the infinitive for purpose, literally for the purpose of giving the cytometrion, literally the measuring out of cytos, of food, in Cairo, in season. This is a very odd expression here. It's interesting to compare what Matthew does here. He doesn't use this word, he uses trophe, nourishment. Cytometrion is found only here in all Greek. It's not found anywhere else. It is literally the measuring out of food, and so the food allowance. So the master will establish him over the running of the management of his household servants. It's so as to almost to dole out the food allowance in Cairo at the proper time. Quite an obscure verse, that one, and there is something similar in Matthew, but it's more straightforward and less complicated vocabulary. Makarios hodulos ekanos, blessed is that servant, hon elthon, hokurios autu hurese poiunta hutos, whom the Lord, having come, will find, future from heurisco, acting thus, literally doing in this way, so acting in this way. Alethos lego hubin, hoti epipasin tois hupakusin autu, katastese auton. For truly I say to you that he will establish him over all his possessions. Hupako can mean to exist, and the participle is often used for the things that exist for you, and hence your possessions. So it's a common use of this particular verb. So truly I say to you that he will establish him over all his possessions. Ean de epe hodulos ekenos ente kardia autu, chronis de hokurios mu erkestai, kai axetai tupten tus paidas kai tas paidiskas, esthien te kai pinen kai methius gestai, hexe hokurios tudulu ekenu en hemerahe u prostoka, kai en hora he uginoske, kai diatomese auton, kai tomeros autu metaton apiston these. So it's quite a long couple of sentences here. So if that servant might say in his heart, the master, chronisdo, now it's got chronos, that's time there, but chronisdo is typical, it's a common classical Greek verb meaning to be delayed. So the master chronisde is, we say someone is taking their time, and it's the same idiom here. So the Lord is delayed, my master is delayed, and this ekesthai, well, it's an epexegetic infinitive here, from coming, and he might begin, this is from archemai, tuptain, to strike the male servants and the female servants, And we get this nice tekai, which is good classical, and but Luke uses it properly here. And to eat, and to drink, and to become drunk. This is probably middle here from methusko, and to become drunk. The master of that slave will come on the day, hey, in which prostoka. This is from prostokao. It's an alpha contract verb, to expect. On the day in which he does not expect, and in the hour in which he does not know. Kai dikotomese. This is a very funny verb to use here. It literally means to cut into two. The tom is connected from that root temno, to cut, and dika is in two, or twain, so it's literally will cut him in two. Well, it's much overreach here. It's here in the sense of to scourge or to punish severely. It's not going to actually chop him into two pieces, but it's one of those verbs that started off meaning a very serious punishment, probably death, and then it comes to mean it's overreach, and so it just comes to mean to punish severely him. Kai, literally, he will place his portion, his part, metaturn apistone. Probably not among the unbelievers, but perhaps here among the unfaithful, rather than those who don't believe, but rather that are not trustworthy, the unfaithful ones. And I think Matthew has a different word here. I've forgotten what it is at the moment, but again, this is an interesting passage to compare with the Matthew 24:45 to 51. I think he says, oh no, I've forgotten what it is, what he's got there. Ekenos de hodulos hognus to thelema to kurioutu, and that slave, the one knowing the will of his master, kai me hetoimasas oi poieses prostothelema autu dereisatai polas. But that servant, the one who knows the will of his master, and not having prepared or having acted prostothelema according to his will, that is the will of the master, dereisatai, he will be beaten. This is the future passive from dero, if you're looking this one up, dero with an epsilon. Dero is to beat. You get a vowel gradation in the passive here, future passive. He will be beaten, polas. Well, we're going to understand perhaps plegas here. He will be beaten, or probably just take this as adverbial. He'll be beaten muchly. But the fact that it's polas suggests that he might have some verb, some noun like plegas, beating, in mind. We'll just say he will be beaten muchly. He will be greatly beaten. Hodeme gnus poiesas de axia plegon dereisatai oligas. So there's that plague going here. But the one who, and this bit here is not in Mark, interestingly, the one who doesn't really know, but he acts in literally having done worthy things, having acted worthily, he will be beaten with a few of blows. Slightly idiomatic language here. Oh, no, actually, that's not quite right, is it? The axia goes with this, I'm sorry. So having done things that are worthy of blows, I'm sorry, that's better here, I think. A comma would have been helpful here. So if to the one not having known, but having done things that are worthy of blows, that is, worthy of punishment, dereisatai, he will be beaten oligas, well, lightly, or a few, in respect of a few blows. It's similar to the polas here. So this guy gets beaten with muchly, with many blows. This one gets beaten oligus, more lightly. Panta di hoi edothe polu, polu tse te thesatai paratu, kai hoi parethento polu perisoteron itususi auton. But to whom much has been given, to each person to whom much has been given, much will be sought from him, and to the person whom much parathente, something like has been, they have entrusted, it's the plural here. So here it was passive, here it's middle, and there's a plural subject here. So, and to whom they entrust, they hand over, from paratithemi, they hand over much, perisoteron, that they will ask from him even more abundantly. They will ask for even more from him. And that's the next little section of chapter 12, and we'll continue this in the next recording.